Welcome back to Bomber's Workshop, and thanks so much for joining me here once again. It is always great to have you back. We've made some really good progress with this bumper build so far, and last time we finished up episode 2 with the construction of the Coroplast mock-ups for the rear and top section of the side portion of the bumper, and we will get those complete today, and we'll also get the top plate mocked up, and we'll actually create it as well. In the next episode, the final episode, we'll add a VHF antenna, and we'll also send the bumper out for sandblasting, priming, and powder coating before getting it installed on the vehicle. I've mentioned in a couple of my videos lately that I was getting very close to being monetized. That means that I've got 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of viewing time in the last 12 months, and I have surpassed that point thanks completely to you folks. So again, thank you so much for all your support. It makes a huge difference to me, and it's exciting to be monetized. Speaking of that, there are now ads on my videos, so I kind of apologize for that one, but again, I thank you for your support in getting them there. I've put skippable ads at the beginning, and I've put some banner ads and stuff. I'm trying not to be too obtrusive with it. Please give me some feedback on that in the comments below, whether there's too many ads, whether it's reasonable. I have YouTube Premium, so I can't see the ads on my own videos, so it's hard for me to gauge that. So feedback would be appreciated. And speaking of being monetized, I promised better audio and better video coming up, and you will certainly expect that within the next few videos. I'll be purchasing some new equipment, and we're moving onwards and upwards. But I do have some footage stored up that I need to produce into a couple more videos before we get to that point. So stand by. More progress. So I have completed the sides now based on the Coroplast mock-ups that I showed you earlier. It went really well. The only thing that I'm questioning a little bit is my shape right here. I like it. I'm really happy with it from this position. It looks nice and even. But as I mentioned earlier, the more you walk around, the more that position changes, or that the look changes. So we'll see if the customer's happy with it. And of course, I'll do whatever he wants, whether he wants that changed or left as it is. But I'm happy with the shape so far. I think it looks really good. I will place a brace from the back side of the bumper just up in here over into the wing or the side panel of the bumper over here, but I've got to obviously avoid the sheet metal of the vehicle as well, so I can only go so far forward, but I'll go as far as I reasonably can, and that will hold that in place permanently. And then once I've removed the bumper, I'll add a ton more bracing that will be temporary in order to avoid warpage during weld up. Now that the sides of the bumper are complete and tacked together, and I'm pretty happy with all my fit up, I have added some braces. This is just some 1/2-inch steel bar, round steel bar that I have welded in place on the back of the bumper and also inside of the side. And obviously both sides are the same. So now I'm confident that I won't lose my positioning. They line up really nicely with the fender flares, just about perfectly even. Each side being the same. See your fender flare there, perfectly even. So, and also I should mention that it just covers that piece of the body right there. Once you look at it from directly at the side, it's just covered, so you really can't get any higher clearance than that. Yeah, very happy with the way it's turned out. It's nice and braced. We're ready to pull this thing off, add the top plate to it. Try it on the vehicle again. If the top plate fits well, we're going to start bracing it up off of the vehicle and welding it up. But I have also, as you can see here, created a Coroplast top plate for this thing. So let's open up the back door and see what that looks like. And there you are. So we have our rear tire cut out, of course, or our spare tire cut out, I should say. And that is going to be filled in with top plate. There's a little recess that's cut into this sheet metal on the vehicle. We're going to cover that over as well, and the rest of the top plate is going to sit as you see. The top plate is going to be made from 1/8-inch thick mild steel checker plate, and I think it will look really nice. I'm going to get that formed up. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to order up a piece that is as large as the dimensions of this entire panel once it's flattened out, and then I will cut it all to shape, I will mark my line for bending on there, and I'll send it out for forming because I'm not going to be able to do that in my press. Alright, so just a couple of notes regarding working with Coroplast again. I know I go over this stuff a lot, but it's really critical if you don't want to make mistakes and you want to be satisfied with your results, then you want to make sure that you're taking the time to prepare everything correctly. So working with Coroplast again here, it's quite a flexible product, less so than cardboard. That's why I use it. It's stiffer than cardboard. It's about as stiff a product as you can get while being really light and really affordable and easy to work with. So that's why I use it, but it still is reasonably flexible. So it's important to note that when you're trying to create a very, very straight line, you always want to double check everything with measurements and not simply trace out your design. So what I've done is I've obviously removed the top plate from the bumper and I've laid it out here on this piece of steel. This steel is checker plate. You can see there that that's checkered on one side, and it's important that I get my orientation correct. So in other words, this is meant to be the right hand side of the bumper and this is the left hand side of the bumper. So when I flip this over, it will be correct. Let's just do that. So this is the position in which it actually gets mounted, and that's obviously correct that I have the checker plate on the top. So if I had my template sitting so that the top side of the template was facing up, and I had my checker plate oriented the way that it is now with the checkers down, which makes it easy to draw on and easy to cut against, I would have exactly the wrong shape. I'd have exactly the reverse, the mirror image for my top plate. So the first thing you want to do is make sure you have your orientation correct. That the top side of your template is against the bottom side of your checker plate. If you're using flat steel, of course, it matters much less because then you don't have any difference between each side of the material you're working with. In this case, it's really critical that I have my orientation correct, so that's my starting point. Anyway, the next thing that's important is making sure that your straight lines truly are straight. In this case, what I did, it was much, much easier to create this top plate in several pieces on the truck. To try to do it out of one piece would have been extremely difficult, and I probably would have wasted a bunch of material and become really frustrated. So I did it in pieces and then just take those pieces together, as you can see here, and there's also a bend incorporated in this. I don't have to worry about the bend for the plasma cutting portion, but we'll worry about that later. Anyway, what I did to make sure that this line was perfectly straight is I just took an adjustable square, set it against somewhere around the center and got a happy position, and then I just made sure that I was the same all the way along. And I wasn't, there was a slight discrepancy, so I've had to adjust this and clamp it into position, and same going this way. It wasn't perfect, but it is now. Okay, so I know I'm really, really straight as far as this goes, and then I laid a straight edge against it to really double check everything, and it looks great. In order to trace around it accurately, of course I don't want this flapping around, so I just laid a weight on there. Alternately, I could have set this on in the vise or on a pedestal where I've got more access to the backside and I could have used more clamps, but this works just great. So I've already gone ahead and traced around using a welder's pencil. It's basically a grease pencil. It works really well. You can get nice, sharp, accurate lines. I've traced all around it, and now I can remove my mock-up and begin plasma cutting this shape out. Of course, on the straight edges, I will be using a straight edge to guide my plasma torch, so that'll ensure that I do get really nice straight edges. And then in the more detailed areas, I'll be doing that by hand. This is a good example here. And I'll just leave myself a little bit of extra material so that then I can come in with a grinder, a sander, a blending disc, or even a die grinder to take care of these angles and get them just right. the bumper from the vehicle, and I have fit the top plate on as best I can. As I suspected, the ends do need to be brought in a little bit. So if we look over here, I've got it fitting. I mean, it's on a big awkward angle, of course, because it's too long. But in terms of looking at it from this perspective, it's fitting up really well. So now I can basically just mark this angle on here. So I'm going to just mark an angle like that. Now, of course, that doesn't come back to this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to replicate that angle, but actually make it come from that point. So it'll wind up here somewhere. And that should make that side fit really well. Come over here, and we can see if we look down, it's a little tough to see, but if you look past here, you can see the angles are pretty similar, but not absolutely perfect. So again, we're going to take off just a little bit at the front here and basically none at the back. So I'll make myself a small line right there, and then I'll connect that to that rear corner, and we'll try it on again. The adjustments have been made, and the top plate fits really well. That corner fits in just beautifully, follows the line of the bumper exactly. Again, back here, follows the bumper line really well, and a beautiful fit along the side there. So now I just got to make sure that this entire edge, and especially this outcropping here, fits well into the sheet metal of the vehicle, and that this recess fits well around the little bracket for the gas cylinder that operates the rear door. And here is the recess for the spare tire mount, or recess for the spare tire mount, and it fits really well also. There's a little bit of a gap in here, but obviously I can just clamp that up to take out the gap when I weld it up. So that is almost the next step. What I'm going to do is fit it back onto the vehicle, make sure everything is happy in place, and then I'm going to remove it, and it's time to brace this bumper up for welding, weld it all up, and add some recovery points, and this thing is just about done. Has been removed from the vehicle, and I have removed the top plate from the bumper so that I can get to the spots that need to be welded first, and I have fully braced the bumper for welding. There's a whole lot of bracing going on here. So normally when I create a rectangular square tube bumper, I wouldn't use anywhere near this much bracing, because the fact that it's all box section means that it braces itself, in the sense that you can tack all four corners and create quite a rigid structure before you begin welding. But this one, of course, has plate sides, so it requires a lot more bracing. And in addition to the fact that they are plate sides, they really don't have a lot of support within themselves. The more angles you have built into a structure, generally the stronger that structure is, based on its own design. This one here has just one angle in it and a couple of thin plates, so it's going to be very subject to warpage. So I have braced it all the way across the bumper so that I know that I'm not going to get any tweaking in towards the vehicle, so that I maintain a 12-degree angle here. And then I've braced the mounting points as well, even though they're welded already, just to be absolutely sure we don't get any deformation. I wanted to brace everything as solid as I could. Threw in a couple of X's between this main brace and my mounting point brace to make sure that the orientation between those stays exactly the same. And then off of those, I've run some legs up to the very corners of the bumper, so that we don't get any tweaking there. And obviously same on the other side. These panels here are braced using these short pieces. And then the odd one is I've welded some angle iron in here so that I don't get this angle opening up on me when I weld, because of course when I go ahead and weld this seam here, it's going to want to open up like this due to heat shrinkage. So that's going to prevent that really well, because I've been able to anchor it in 6 points. So I expect that will do a very good job, and of course again same on the other side. So it's fully braced now. I'll weld all of the seams. I'll blend it all out, I would imagine, after that, and then I will add the top plate last. And maybe I'll just tack it into place, fit the bumper back on the vehicle, make sure I'm still happy with everything, confirm there hasn't been any heat warpage, and then I'll pull it off and fully weld the top plate, add the recovery points and the VHF antenna, and I believe that's a wrap for this one. A lot more work ahead, but at least I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I've welded the bottoms of the main tubes, the back sides of the main tubes, the back sides of the corners, and I think that's about it. So now we'll go ahead and sand them all down to a point. I may blend these out, but I very much doubt it. I'll probably just sand them at this point while I wait for the welder to cool down and for the bumper to cool down a bit, and then we'll change its position and move on to some more welds. But that is going to be in the final part, which is part 4 of this series. We'll go over all sorts of finishing techniques, and I'm going to be very thorough about that. So basically you're going to get a finishing clinic in part 4, which will include sanding, blending, fixing mistakes, and making sure that you get a really, really perfect radius on all of your edges. So please do stay tuned for that. Come back for part 4. Thank you so much for all your support. Thank you again for the 1,000 subscribers. Please do subscribe if you aren't subscribed already. Leave a like if you find the video worthy, and please, if you have any questions, leave those in the comments below, or any other comments you might have, including, like I was mentioning earlier, let me know how the ads are, if there's too many, if they're obtrusive, if they're a pain, or if they're tolerable. Anyhow, thanks again so much for coming back to Balmer's Workshop, and we'll see you again next time. Stay safe and enjoy the springtime.